The 442nd was fighting in Italy in 1944, and in August of 1944 we made the invasion of southern France, and we were now with the 36th Division. So it took a long time for the 36th Division to get organized and move from Italy to make the invasion of France. So Normandy was in June, and we didn't invade till August, so that by that time the German forces in southern France had been mostly shipped to the Normandy region because of that huge invasion going on up there. So we didn't encounter very much resistance. There was some. We had a few battles. We had to battle our way on the beaches coming into France. But then there was a long stretch in which the Air Force took over, wiped out the German tanks and trucks and so forth, and we had pretty easy going. And we could take right on trucks and go up into the northern part of France. So by October 1944, we were up near about 50 miles from the German border, approaching a town called Bruyere. And this is a very important city because the rail line from Germany to the Western Front ran right through Bruyere, and the Germans were protecting it at all costs because that was their lifeline to the Western Front. Well, we were assigned to capture that city and take over the railroad. Well, we came in over the mountains, over the city of Bruyere, and use of artillery, Air Force, whatever we had to get into the town. And it was a series of small hills we had to conquer. The Germans were entrenched in every one of those. And it took us about 8 to 10 days, actually, to clear Bruyere and the valley beyond where the railroad track was running. So it was about a 10-day battle, a long time to be in the front line. And finally, we were taken off and able to get showers, change of clothes, hot food, and we just reorganized. When about a day and a half, we got the call to gear up that we had to go up again. So we were told to gear up to go on the offense again. And the reason they told us was that part of the 36th Division, it turned out to be the 1st Battalion of the 141st Regiment, had become trapped. That General Dahlquist had been pushing his troops so far in advance because he wanted to be the first American general to cross the German border. So he was pushing his troops. And now this 1st Battalion had gotten isolated some 5 miles beyond the front lines. And then now they were completely surrounded by the Germans. And they were without food, almost out of ammunition. They were without medical supplies. They had a hard time getting water. So the 2nd and 3rd Battalions had tried to rescue them, could not make any headway. Finally, they ready to give them up, concede that they were going to be a lost battalion completely, when they told the 442nd, even though we pretty well decimated from the previous battle, you have to go and try to reach them. So it was a 5-day battle, and it was mostly hand-to-hand, face-to-face with the Germans, and it was started around October 25, 1944. And by the 26th and 7th, we were making headway. And I remember the 27th because I thought I was killed by a German. It turned out that somehow he missed me, and I survived. And the 28th, the next day, we were making an offensive in the morning, and the German barrage came in. And unlike Italy, in the French Vosges Mountains, very heavily wooded forest, the artillery would be shot at the trees, then the trees would make the bursts come straight down instead of a normal artillery which would go straight ahead. So they were throwing in 10, 15 shells at a time, bang, 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 one after the other into the trees, and they would just rain down on top of us. Well, on the 28th, a large fragment, red-hot piece of steel, hit me in the back and slid around to the front. And it was so painful. I can't explain how how it hurt. And pretty soon my body just folded up, just went into shock. And all I remember is I told the medic when he came to me that just let me die right there. I just couldn't move. But I'm sure he filled me full of morphine, because when I woke up, I was on a hospital train going to the American hospital in Dijon for surgery. What happened is that when we were told that we were in the safe zone on the east side of California, that we could move over there. And while we were there, my parents, who were Seventh-day Adventists, contacted the church, and they had heard that Governor Carr of Colorado had said that if Governor Warren in California doesn't want you, you're welcome to come to my state in Colorado. So they contacted this church in Colorado, and sure enough, they said, we'll take one family, and somehow they selected us. And so sometime around April 1942, we were told that we were no longer in a safe zone. We had to completely leave California, and that everybody was going to be evacuated into some relocation camp. We didn't know where. And at that point, just before we had to move out, we received a card from the FBI giving us permission to leave. So we had friends in Manzanar. So we decided we'll go south to Bakersfield, and then we'll drive over and go to Manzanar and go visit our friends. So that's what we did. We got to the gate, and I showed the soldier my pass. He lets us in, and we drive to the administration, and we tell them we'd like to visit with our friends. These are all our friends. Would you kind of see if you can locate them and ask them to come so we can talk to them? While we're doing this, other people came to us and said, you're in this prison, so we suggest that you go back to the gate and see if the soldier will let you leave, because if they don't let you leave, you'll be confined to this prison just like we are. So we decided maybe we'd better not wait to visit our friends. Turned around, went to the gate, and of course, same soldiers there because we'd been there less than half an hour, and he opened the gate for us, and we were on our way to Colorado. In the case of my wife, her maiden name was Hirosaki, and they lived in Gilroy. It just so happened that in the late 20s or so, her father was able to purchase a large ranch, a very barren piece of land in Gilroy, some 500 acres or so. But it was a piece of land that had never been cultivated, and part of it was a large swamp. So it was up to him to open up that swamp and get the land fixed so that they could raise crops. And the owner of the property liked the work that Mr. Hirosaki did so well that he suggested that he buy the property from him and become his own landowner. Of course, the Alien Land Law of 1908 said that aliens, particularly Japanese, could not purchase property. So this became a problem. However, they solved it by using a form of trusteeship. Mr. Hirosaki had 4 children, and they're now in their teen ages, who was born and were American citizens by birth. And so they put the name of the ranch and the name of the 4 minor children, but in a trusteeship. So that's how they were able to maintain property and control ownership. So when the war came and they had to leave, they went to Colorado voluntarily. When they came back, they were still able to maintain and keep their own land. And very fortunate that this situation turned out the way it did, because many people didn't have access to that type of arrangement in which they could set up a trusteeship for ownership. So they lost the land that they had been buying, leasing, or whatever. So just a fortunate set of circumstances. But that's how they were able to hold their property.